Hello, sweet, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Divine Alignment. I have a wonderful guest joining us today that I'm so excited to dive into our conversation. I have Mike. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Jasmine. Excited to be here.
Yeah, do you want to just begin with sharing with everyone what you do, who you are, and what you're all about?
Yeah, sure. Great place to start. Yeah, so my name is Mike Schmidt. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. Came out to San Diego, California 7 years ago. We were just discussing before going live on this podcast how it's the adult playground. So essentially just listen to my intuition and my soul to come out here and slowly but surely become, yeah, the absolute highest and best expression of myself as a nutrition and hormone and burnout health coach. And yeah, essentially, I help people heal their relationship with food, teach people how to listen to their body, how to overcome burnout, and really help people tune into what they actually want in life. And having fun and feeling good and having more energy along the way, not feeling like they either have to choose fun or health. So, yeah, that's my mission is to help change the world one bite at a time, but also one nervous system at a time and help people really tune into their emotional body, their physical body, and tap into like, yeah, their life's purpose.
Gosh, so good. So good. Because I feel like that once you start getting into the health world, I think that I mean, we're seeing it more and more, people incorporating the nervous system and incorporating like your purpose and whatnot, because really to thrive, we have to factor these in. But I think a lot of times people can get stuck in just like the physical, like just what I eat and just like
Mhm.
the supplements and the biohacks.
Right.
So I love that you're incorporating that. I would love to hear what led you to that and a little bit about your journey and your story getting there.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. I feel like life is just a constant evolution. And me and my buddy were talking about that last night. It's like, you like go through these pains and then you kind of like figure it out and you heal it and then you start teaching other people and you almost just wish that you could just like, all right, this is it. This is what I do. This is how I help people. But the truth is like we're always growing. If you're always like being an ambitious person and seeking a higher, happier version of yourself, like things change, the needle moves up, right? So for me, it basically started with nutrition and it's really more deeply trickled into emotional health, emotional intelligence, and trauma healing because of how profound it was for me and how like when I was going through my burnout journey, I was doing the ice baths, the saunas, eating all the healthy food. I was like 2, 3 years into my nutrition coaching journey at that point, doing absolutely everything, working with three different naturopaths at the same time, like ChatGPTing everything, like just literally I didn't know what else I could do. And then I basically found energy healing and community and like Reiki and nervous system healing. And that just like totally changed my life. But the origin story to back up a little bit was the fact that I just like always grew up as an athlete. I played basketball, I played lacrosse, I played summer baseball, played soccer growing up, played football for a little bit. So just loved being active. Um, and then I got introduced to calisthenics from my best friend. And I started doing like muscle ups and handstands and all these like really interesting things that really helped my neuroplasticity. Like I was started like performing better at work. I started like just noticing all these synchronicities in my life, but I kind of became obsessed with it to the point where I ended up injuring my shoulder. And that was really painful. And to be honest, like there's still very much like lingering, yeah, shoulder injury residuals to this day, but it's the biggest silver lining in my life because it just led me to studying the human body more. And then that led me to study nutrition. Then I started like shopping at Whole Foods and I started looking at like the back of the bags and realized like most of the good stuff was coming from California. And then visited my buddy from high school in Santa Monica, just like loved SoCal, did a few hikes, just like fell in love. And then a few months later, my brother invited me to do a golf trip in San Diego. And within like 10 hours of arriving, I was like, okay, like I absolutely have to move here. Like I just had this like biggest like gut instinct and intuition that I just needed to move to California. I didn't know what was going to happen, when or where, who I was going to meet, but I just felt like something good was going to happen. So I transferred offices with my corporate job at the time, which I'm super grateful for to have that foundation. And then the pandemic hit like 6 months after I moved. And it was the first time in my life I ever actually like slowed down and like sat in silence and sat with like what I wanted to do with my life. And I started meditating and journaling, and my awareness just really started to change. And I basically struggled with chronic acne and chronic hemorrhoids for like 10 years. And I tried like the Proactive, I tried the tretinoin creams. I considered Accutane. I ended up not doing it. But I was also put on an antibiotic at one point. I forget which one it was, but yeah, I was like desperate, just like trying to heal my skin, trying to heal my hemorrhoids. And it was just, it was one thing physically, but it was more so just like it caused a lot of insecurity. It caused a lot of isolation. It caused a lot of anxiety and depression. And I was super insecure about that stuff. And it was like really embarrassing, going up to my basketball coach and be like, hey, I can't play today because I have this like, inflammation in my bowels basically. And um, it came to the point where I actually did like a physical operation on one of my hemorrhoids, which is ridiculous because obviously the root, I say obviously, I didn't know at the time, but the root of inflammation is like the food we eat and the stress that's in our lives. Instead, the doctor and the dermatologist like, okay, let's physically try to like cut this thing off, which was crazy. And so that was just like a ultimate road of desperation. And then literally within 5 weeks of joining the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is where I got my nutrition coaching cert, I healed all my acne and all my hemorrhoids. And I was just like, how come nobody ever told me this? Like, this is absolutely absurd. And then as my awareness changed, I'm hearing things from my family, like family members who have had cancer 3 different times, family members who have had 3 different autoimmune diseases. My roommate at the time was going through, as a 26-year-old, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, outpatient chemotherapy, and I like witnessed it firsthand. And that was just like this constant tap on the shoulder from God to be like, okay, now you have all this information. Like you can't just like keep this to yourself. You need to help people. Um, so that was really like the origin story. And then I left my corporate job after doing really good with my coaching in July of 22, I believe it was. But like 2 months before, I was balancing 2 jobs, my coaching business, my corporate job. I was in like a relationship that wasn't serving me. I wasn't like emotionally intelligent at the time. So I was like unconsciously trauma dumping, honestly, in that relationship. It was very toxic. Uh, it was just like the most stress I'd ever gone through in my life. And then yeah, started getting these like gut issues and afternoon energy crashes, even though I was like the health coach who knew all this stuff. And so it was like this massive identity crisis, the health coach struggling with his health. So yeah, then I basically went through like 16 months of depression and burnout and like got myself to a really dark place, considered medications like multiple times. Again, was trying all the supplements, working with different naturopaths. Just couldn't even fathom what else I could have tried at that point. And then I got introduced to a mentor, sort of the one good thing that came from my doom scrolling on Instagram, my coping mechanism during my depression. um, got into a community, started getting vulnerable. That was like the number one key healer for me. Started getting into energy healing, Reiki, and yeah, then the opposite side of my burnout, I ran like 8 half marathons in 8 months. I was, still technically diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus, which is like a chronic illness. Um, Yet my like testosterone and my energy like quadrupled even just after like healing my energy. So yeah, that's kind of the origin story, the evolution story, and now why more recently than ever before I'm more passionate about really helping people who feel like they're doing all the right things and eating the grass-fed beef and doing the saunas and the ice baths and making good money. Like they have all the good stuff, but for some reason they feel empty inside or their just energy isn't where they want it to be. Because yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than feeling like you're doing your absolute best and trying your hardest, yet not feeling the way you want to feel. So yeah, now just reminding myself of how bad and how painful of a place I was in. Because sometimes when you overcome those things, you kind of forget how bad it was. But you go back into those moments of pain and you're like, okay, you never want any human to experience that ever. Because I mean, I almost, yeah, decided not to be here on this planet at one point. And so just really passionate about giving people hope and knowing that it is possible to heal.
Wow. What a powerful journey. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. What were you doing before you were what was your corporate work?
I was an account manager for a recruiting and staffing company. So basically doing outside sales. And
Yeah.
it was it was good. I was making good money. I was making, six figures, and I was happy in a lot of ways. And once I came across nutrition, it was just something I was way more passionate about, and how I could heal people and how it really felt like my life's purpose and my life calling. But like I found fulfillment in finding people jobs, right? Helping them like support their families and putting food on the table. But after all the pain that I went through, like suffering with those skin issues and the mental side of all that stuff, and then healed it like so quickly. I just like it was just like a true awakening. I was like, how come no one told me this? Like this is crazy. I need to share it with the world. So, but yeah, that's where I started. I learned a lot from that. I'm very grateful for that 6 years. The skills I learned from it and connecting with people and networking, and I know it's all part of the path. But
Totally.
I think I also started to realize that a lot of people that were coming to me when I was a nutrition coach, like I had created all these like hacks to like become healthier as a corporate like employee. Like that was like my target market was like busy professionals. But then as I went through like my energy healing and burnout healing, I realized like the main reason that a lot of people are sick is because they're living out of alignment. It doesn't necessarily mean you like have to be your own business owner, or you can't work a corporate job to like be happy and feel aligned. But so many people are just kind of doing things because they think it's like this ladder that they like actually think that they want, and then they get there and they realize it's actually not, because they're basically living a life of other people's projected beliefs onto them about what they should want or what like should bring them happiness, and then they get there and they realize it doesn't bring them happiness. So that's why like my mission statement is just like helping people truly like understand what they actually want. 'Cause most of the time, especially when it comes to like, let's say, emotional eating or stress eating, it's like you don't actually want food. Like you're not actually hungry. You're stressed, you're lonely, you're bored, your nervous system's dysregulated. And so that's like one of my core concepts is like primary food, everything that's off of your plate that affects your secondary food, which is everything that goes onto your plate. Because I found that to be really the root issue is the primary food.
Totally. And gosh, there's so many things here I want to comment on. I mean, like, I love that you were just able to find that type of healing so quickly from food and see.
Mhm.
I mean, that was like my biggest thing too, is I was like, why, from going to so many doctors and healers and naturopaths and Western and Eastern, like, and no one talking about what you're eating, and
Mm.
no one like even bringing these things up, right? And it's so fascinating because I too, when I was like becoming a nutritionist and learning about this world, it was like so fascinating because I was like seeing my own type of healing, but then I was also like experiencing like the depths of like the darkest part of my own health,
Mhm.
just like mental illness and things like that, and physical things too. I'm curious, because it's always so fascinating for me watching people with like the physical but also the emotional things. So like when I hear people talking about hemorrhoids or like acne or like things like this, like hemorrhoids, I'm all like the first thing I always ask people, I'm like, what's a pain in your ass right now? Like what in your life is a pain in your ass? And I cannot tell you how many people they'll identify that, they'll shift that, they could be gone overnight. And it's so
Yeah.
wild. Like these things that's like we just think that like I think it's so archaic now that we treat things
Mm.
like with surgery. Like everything, it's like the doctors see it as like an opportunity for let's go in and do surgery. Let's
Mm.
remove it. But it's like, no, what's our body saying to us? Like, what is the body communicating to us? And I really love that you're like sharing that side of it as well, because we are like this whole ecosystem. So I want
Mhm.
to learn too, or I want you to share about, because something that I think is a really powerful that I personally have been always fascinated with ever since I became a nutritionist, but it's like the where our food comes from. And like it's not just about reading a label. I think that that's the first step, learning what's in
Mhm.
our food, right? But I want you to kind of talk about like the importance of where our food comes from and like talking with farmers and like looking beyond just like, oh, it's gluten free or it's vegan or all these things. People think like just because something's vegan, it's healthy. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, this is not the case. Like we want to know where the meat comes from. We want to, so I would love to hear you share about that.
Beautiful question. I think the foundational philosophy that I invite people to take on that I deeply believe in is that we are not separate from nature.
Hmm.
And once you really let that sink in and actually understand what that means, every single external manifestation of the food system and how we optimize for profit and for economy, it makes perfect sense. It's not the way I believe it ought to be for our like highest selves and how we can really tune into what we're here to do on this planet and how we're designed to feel. I always say like sometimes you don't know how bad you felt until you start feeling good. And so anytime you go against nature, whether that be a synthetic pharmaceutical drug or like doing some sort of surgery or something that's like external that doesn't come from like within you and your soul, it's really like nature's just going to let you know about it, right? And like that's why every single pharmaceutical drug on the planet has some sort of side effect, and usually it has at least like 50. And if you've ever watched TV and seen a commercial, you know that to be true. And so that to me is just like, oh, the body is basically just giving us feedback. It's saying, oh, this input that you're putting inside of me doesn't actually align. So I'm gonna like give you some pain because pain is a teacher and it's teaching that, this isn't meant for us. And so the sad truth about the modern day world is that, like you said, it's one thing to read labels, it's one thing to read ingredients, but the problem is it's really more about like what isn't on the labels and what isn't in the ingredients because we've literally created a like over $50 billion industry on two words, gluten free. But the problem is that's not the issue. The gluten is not the issue, it's the glyphosate.
Totally.
And that's something that I take for granted because, health and nutrition and wellness is my life. But I have come to realize that like 99% of people don't even know what that is. And for those listening out there, if you haven't heard of it, it's essentially the main ingredient in Roundup Ready weed killer, which most of us are more familiar with, the thing that a lot of us spray in our, driveways to get rid of the weeds that are coming through the cracks. And that has basically been used in a ubiquitous form all across America and now all across the country. And it's sprayed on mainly our glyphosate, or excuse me, our soy and our corn because those are genetically modified, meaning yeah, the GMOs. And the reason that we've actually modified food genetically is so that it can withstand glyphosate. So it kills all the bugs, all the pests, everything around that crop, but the crop stays alive. So then you start to wonder, like, well, if it's killing the pests and the, insects, like what's happening to our stomach when that's ingested into our body? And not to mention like the synthetic yeah, genetically modified organism food that's going into us. And what is also really important to know is that like wheat isn't really a GMO food, but they use it as a desiccant, meaning like it's a way to dry the wheat before they harvest it. And so even though like you can say that wheat isn't GMO, they actually use glyphosate on wheat like almost more than anything else. And as a matter of fact, I actually kind of an aside, I met a guy who worked for like some sort of, I think it was like San Diego or California wastewater company. And they study the water and they do it in labs and they look at stuff under a microscope. And I was like, what is like the most common thing that you find in the water? And he looks at me in the eyes and he goes, corn. And so
Wow.
to me it made sense. And I just like further confirm my belief because the reason that that is because most people can't digest corn because 96% of it in America is genetically modified. So it goes through your stomach without really even being digested properly. And you wonder why it gives you issues. And if you think about any processed food, you go through the grocery store, 99% of it is either genetically modified corn or genetically modified soy in just a different box or a bag. And if you look at the ingredients, they're pretty much all the same. They're just different quote products that have a different color on the front of the bag.
Wait, was this like all water?
Yeah, it was just some guy I literally met at some I literally went to this like Tuesday bingo night one time in San Diego. And somehow we started chatting and he was like, yeah, I worked for like, the wastewater company. And I asked him, I was like, oh, what do you see in the water? And he just said corn.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a big thing, right? Is that like we become so disconnected from nature that we like are destroying it without realizing it. And because we're not separate from nature, like the truth is, I believe, is that we are nature. Like we are not in nature. We are not separate from nature. Like we are part of nature. So we don't even realize like how much we're actually like killing ourselves by, you know, extremely industrializing the food system. And so, yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things is like realizing how much glyphosate and processed foods really can harm our health, even if you are eating like organic or gluten-free or vegan. And you just have to be aware of like the industrialization because also, olive oil and avocado oil, like unfortunately, a lot of those are laced with like seed oils, meaning like safflower, corn oil, which we just talked about corn, right? Sunflower oil, canola oil, like all these highly inflammatory oils that, yeah, inflame your body, which, inflammation is probably the biggest word in the health space. So, yeah, I think my goal is to really teach people that like your food quality really does matter, Like you can't just say that like meat's good or meat's bad or coffee's good or coffee's bad. It depends on if that meat was grass fed, grass finished, if it lived a healthy, stress free life, or if you watch, I mean, I invite you to watch King Corn. I invite you to watch Food Inc. I invite you to watch You Are What You Eat. You watch one or two documentaries and they show you what's actually going on in the food system. It might change your mind about how you eat. And it's not to scare you, it's to be like, okay, if you actually don't feel well and you feel like you're eating healthy, which is probably the most subjective term of all time, then like you got to do some research or you got to hire someone who knows what they're doing because, yeah, we are busy. Maybe not all of us have the time to do this research. Maybe that's not realistic. But I look at like the toolbox I've created, and I don't mean to like say this in an egotistical way, but like, how do people live their life without this knowledge? And I realized the answer to that question was not very well. Like people have just basically normalized feeling like crap, or they normalize like taking medication. And obviously going on a rant here now, but like medications were never actually designed to heal you. They were designed to keep you a lifelong customer. They're designed to inhibit like one enzyme that makes sure that the blood marker on your blood test shows up correctly, but it's not actually getting to the root of healing what you need to heal. And so it's just going to further perpetuate your situation and you're going to need to rely on it more and more and more, which is exactly how they design it. So for me, it's like you go to the grocery store and you grab the bag of carrots. You go and you grab the quote grass-fed beef, but you have no idea where that and what those conditions that cow is in. You have no idea where those carrots came from. You have no idea what farmer created these crops. So for me, it's like go to the farmer's market, ask them questions, know your farmer. I mean, I got the opportunity to go up to Starwalker Farms in Northern California and like saw the cows grazing on the grass. I got to go through like the meat processing facility. I got to meet the owners of the farm. I got to meet people in the regenerative space. And I think that when people say like, oh, you should buy regenerative, it's so ethereal or like people don't understand why it matters to them. Like, oh, it's good for the planet. It supports the farmer. As much as we want to believe like, yeah, people will be incentivized to do that, the truth is we are all of our own objectively like egotistical beings. Like we're looking out for ourselves. And so it has to like land as like why it matters to us. And for me, I try to teach people that it's like legitimately 5 times healthier for your health. And it's worth, paying an extra $2 for the regenerative organic eggs. Because when you really see how the food system works, you'll understand that your health is, the best and biggest ROI that you can ever invest in. And there's actually a company called Audacious now. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they basically test the nutrient density of certain regenerative foods. And the data is like unbelievably clear about how much, more regenerative food is nutritionally dense than organic and conventional. And so, my biggest mission is to teach people that we're not separate from nature and that the more you eat food that is actual food and real food and, the orange that comes off the tree and the grass finished beef from the farmer that the more you will connect with yourself, because when you eat nature and the fact that you are nature, you're literally like synchronizing how life, I believe, is meant to be lived. And then your brain opens up, your gut opens up, your intuition opens up, your heart opens, you become happier, healthier. And that's truly how I believe we can change the world.
Oh, so good. So good. I feel like I'm like, there's not a single podcast or video I've done at this point that I'm like, you have to go out into nature. Like you are nature, and it is our greatest teacher. It is our greatest healer. We are not separate. We are the earth. And I think so. I love that you're talking about this because it's so important. Like we're so disconnected, it's like no wonder why we're disconnected from our food because we're
Mhm.
disconnected from our source. Like the earth is, it's called Mother Earth for a reason. Like
Mhm.
she I feel like if we just spent more time in nature, like we would all find more peace and more healing. And I always say as well, like, of course, this is not medical advice, but there's no such thing as a pharmaceutical deficiency, right? Like there these how did our ancestors live without these things, right? Like they didn't have all of these things. They didn't. And when you really go into the mechanics of how a pharmaceutical works, exactly like you were saying, like it blocks the receptor. I'll never forget there was like a time in my life where I was constantly feeling like I was getting UTIs and I was like going like every other week. And they were like, oh, well, we'll just give you after like 20 times, they were like, why don't we just give you this antidepressant? Because what it does is it just blocks the receptors and then you just won't have to feel it anymore. And I remember thinking like, but my body's talking to me. Like there's
Mhm.
something here. Like why don't we want to listen to like what the message is? And that was like a huge like, okay, I need to figure this out myself because obviously they're not going to help me. Like they're and it's, I think the doctors and whatnot like they do this because they want to help. Unfortunately, they're just not taught the tools of how to actually truly help. So we have to, and like at the end of the day, this is actually a good thing because we have to become our own healer. We have to learn how to heal ourselves and how to work with food and with our body and with energy. So like at the end of the day, it's a good thing, but it can be like a really long, frustrating, hard journey to get there. And I mean, to your point, like a lot of people get depression, get anxiety, and get these things that it's like can be really hard to like find your way. So
Mm.
I think that there's so much in here. And I love also that you were talking about the gluten because I stopped eating gluten. I found out that I was celiac, who I don't know, but like before anyone even knew what gluten-free was, like, gosh, at this point, like almost 20 years ago. And I remember I would like tell people I needed something gluten-free and they were like, what's that? I was like, it's like wheat. And they're like, sweet? You can't have a sweet? Like what? And it was such a thing back then. But I'm curious too, because I was just like contemplating this the other day and I was like, you know what? Now it seems like the big thing is eggs. Like everyone's allergic to eggs. Everyone you hear is allergic to eggs. And I was like, it's probably just like gluten. Like these hens are being fed corn and being fed soy. And it's like, why wouldn't we be allergic to eggs when they're being fed these GMO things? Like, I think if we just had good quality eggs, there wouldn't be issues. Like, I have like kids coming in that are like breaking out in hives from eggs. And I just like, I think that all of these things, again, it's like, I'm curious your thoughts and beliefs, but I don't think that it's like the food. I think it's all of the things that we're doing to the food that are making people actually sick. What do you think?
Yeah, it's spot on. Something I'm passionate about is really helping people understand that it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Like it is not your fault. It's your responsibility to take care of your health and
Mhm.
overcome the things that you're going through. But I'm here to tell you that it is not your fault. It is the blown up macro ego that has just totally taken over society, which again optimizes for efficiency and money and speed instead of health. Like we've literally created a world and an economy and a society around prioritizing speed and money because we're taught that that's what brings us happiness when the reality is like human connection, true health, and slowing down. Like you'll find that when you really lean into that stuff, that that's like the true pace of life, and that's what's going to bring you true happiness is having a slow morning and going at your own pace and resting and not burning yourself out. Um, and so yeah, glyphosate is I think it's one of the most detrimental chemicals that's ever been introduced to human society. And like, it's I don't know how long it's been around. I think it's been like maybe 70 years, but it took 100 years to quote prove that cigarettes cause lung cancer, right? And we're already seeing the effects. We just like maybe don't have the again quote science to prove that like these things are really causing issues. Like celiac disease has increased, I think, over like 400% since 1960, which is right around when GMOs were introduced, which is, again, the whole reason of GMOs to be able to spray glyphosate. High fructose corn syrup was introduced in 1960, um, which is like the reason that 12-year-olds have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is liver disease, obviously not caused by alcohol, but literally from too much sugar, which people don't realize that sugar is a toxin in excess, almost like just as bad as alcohol, or if not worse. Um, and so, yeah, it's like, it's not, it's not the cow, it's the how. It's not like food sensitivities or food allergies. People go crazy on like testing, and I get it because you want to like have this validation of like something outside of you is wrong or something. I mean, like when I went through my burnout, I was like, oh, I must have mold, I must have parasites, I must have, something, which, some of my tests like showed I had like minor levels of those things, but really it was just the stress I was enduring, which in the modern day world can come from lack of emotional healing, the relationships that you're in, the food you're eating, the environment, the home you live in. Like stress comes from a lot of different places. And I think things like Lyme disease and, um, chronic fatigue and these like autoimmune diseases are basically just a byproduct of too much stress, so overloaded that it can no longer handle. And the rate of damage outpaces the rate of recovery. And that's something that glyphosate does really well is damage the body and damage the immune system, which 70% of your immune system is in your gut. So like no wonder we're allergic to eggs now and avocados and strawberries and blueberries. It's like peanut allergies didn't even exist like 60 years ago. I was talking to like a 55-year-old man of like a year ago. I just like always remember this. I don't know why, but he was like, dude, like I love what you're doing. Like when I grew up in elementary school, like peanut allergies were not even a thing. Like maybe like one in like 10 kids had it, but honestly, I don't even think it like existed. And now like
Have you
every
heard
kid,
about the peanut allergy, the root of that with the
no,
vaccines? They started putting peanut oil in vaccines like 60 years ago.
amongst aluminum and mercury and all this shit.
Right,
So
that's why, yeah. So that's why
yeah,
everyone's allergic to peanuts now.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And yeah, it's crazy what humans will do to optimize for money and efficiency and speed. And some people don't even want to believe this, or they refuse to believe it because it sounds crazy. But there's a reason that natural vanilla flavor, I don't know if it's as ubiquitous as it is now, but like about 10 years ago, they realized that harvesting vanilla and vanilla bean from like Madagascar and all these like remote places was very, very expensive. And so they literally somehow, food scientists found that they could emulate the same flavor from beaver anal glands. And so they literally started extracting like the oil from like the sacs of beaver anal glands, which is insane. But just another example of like how food industrialization um, and quote like feeding the world just like turns into all of these things. And if like I always challenge people, it's like if you walk into a grocery store, and I was like ChatGPTing it the other day because like I'm so mind boggled by it. I think there's like over 60,000 grocery stores in the United States or maybe the world. Uh, Maybe it's even more than that. But anyway, my whole point is like you go to a grocery store and like 80% of it, right? The whole middle aisles is just genetically modified corn and soy. It's just, corn from like high fructose corn syrup and all the, sodas. It's the corn chips. It's the, corn tortillas that are GMO. It's yeah, the potato chips that are GMO. It's actually just like so insane. And if you go and you look at any bag, turn around, it's going to say corn oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, and you'll realize that like humans have created this, and we have this false dogma of this food shortage when it's like if we allocated all our money to regenerative farming and actually replenishing the soil instead of trying to kill all the weeds and kill Mother Nature, that's like part of this perfect ecosystem that Mother Earth has created, and we put all our money into that stuff, then yeah, the apples and the healthy organic food would actually be way cheaper than the poisonous food. And I believe that food is weaponized. There's a lot of lower income areas where there's food deserts and people don't have access to a Whole Foods. They don't have access to healthier organic grocery stores, or they maybe can't afford it. That's exactly how the system has been designed. And so you just start to realize like, wow, we've just decided to like spend our money on efficiency and maximizing profits over people's health, right? And so to answer your question, long story short, it's objectively, it's not really surprising that like we have all this explosion of food allergies. Um, but it's like kind of sad because people would go down these rabbit holes of like food sensitivity testing or
Mhm.
food allergy testing, and they're like, oh, well, I've been feeling this way because I'm allergic to eggs, or I've been feeling this way because I can't have peanut butter. And it's like, it's not just black and white like that. Like if I went to the expo and I met these people who have regenerative organic peanut butter from Mexico, or, you have grass-fed, grass-finished beef from Starwalker Farms, or you have, yeah, like two ingredient buckwheat flour bread that's regenerative and doesn't have any gluten. So it's always about the quality. And like I talk about that until I'm blue in the face because yeah, not all bread's created equal, not all meat's created equal, not all coffee is created equal. And it's one thing for me to like focus on food, but I think the root of the reason that the system is so industrialized is because of people's egos, and they're not connected with their soul, they're not connected to nature, and they're optimizing for the wrong thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's really the hard thing once you start to learn about and go deeper is the deeper agenda of
Mm-hmm.
keeping people unwell. And like I
Mm,
think that's like a hard thing for a lot of people to see or want to accept is that like there are people that profit off of you being sick. People profit because then you need this pharmaceutical and then you need another pharmaceutical for the side effects of that pharmaceutical. And then once you go down the rabbit hole of like how much kickback like doctors make from chemotherapy treatments and all of these things. It's like it's a pretty wild thing. And I mean, I think I want to just it's like if I feel like for like the normal person, these types of things can feel really overwhelming when you're like, oh wait, like olive oil can have canola oil in it and like all of these things. And it's like I just like want to share that I get it. Like for a lot of people, it is overwhelming. And I've heard people, I'll have clients, it's like they just are like, well, I just want to say like F it. Like if everything's bad, like why even like try? But it's like take it as you can and like do what you can with what you have. But like the more that you start feeling good, like to your point, like people don't even realize how good they can actually feel. And I mean, I love Mike is traveling too. So I love that like we get to travel through California. And like California is one of the greatest places as far as like options to healthy food. But like finding places where you can just doing like a few things at a time to begin to optimize your health. Like there's that saying, like you pay now or you pay the doctor later, right? And hopefully the doctor that's actually going to help you because a lot of them can't. So I'm curious, like for people listening who do feel overwhelmed, like where do you feel like is the best place? Like what's going to give people the highest ROI like when they start working with you and you're like okay like start doing these things first and you're going to start seeing like the biggest yield to your health that's going to help you.
mm. Well, the first thing I would ask the person is if you feel like it's overwhelming to be healthy and the pain that that brings on in your life, just ask yourself like how painful it is to be in your situation and how you feel, whether that's you have gut issues or you have heartburn or you have IBS or you have chronic acne, you have skin issues, you have afternoon energy crashes, you have chronic fatigue, you're like, reliant on caffeine. Like how much is that really affecting your life, and how painful is that? And have you just become used to the pain? Because that's what the nervous system does. Even if it doesn't serve you, like it just likes familiarity. So I think the first question is like really asking yourself, like, how bad do you want it? And I also want to say that at the same time, I do empathize and I understand. And we live in a world where it shouldn't be like that. Like we shouldn't have to look at everything with a microscope and look at every single ingredient. And it's crazy when you think about it. The default is literally to basically be poisoned. And if you eat the standard American diet, you will get the standard American diseases, which is exactly what they want because what business doesn't want a recurring customer?
Hmm.
And so to give people some tangible tools and tips, I mean, I'm not here to set the definition of healthy. Like you have to define that for yourself based on you being able to learn the skill of tuning in and listening to your body. Because sometimes I've met people and I've been there before where you get like this hypochondriac of like, oh, I'm gonna study every single thing and like I gotta make sure everything is perfect and I can't ever go out to eat ever again. And there is the truth in how messed up the food system is, but your body's also resilient. If you go out to dinner, like they're probably going to be cooking seed oils unless like, you go to a good spot, which hopefully the world will start changing. And there are definitely places that don't, which is cool. And you have also the ability to stand up for yourself and ask, hey, what oils do you guys cook with? Um, and again, know that your body's resilient and you can hop in a sauna and you can, take some uh chlorella, you can take some um
Charcoal.
charcoal. That's the other one I was looking for. Thank you. Um, but yeah, it's like really important to like, I think the mindset's like the most important thing. But I just say all that because like healthy is such a subjective term. I mean, I have had clients be like, yeah, like, or like I just do these enrollment calls and they're like, yeah, like I already eat healthy. Like I eat like, fruits and vegetables and like chicken and all this stuff. And then I get into like what's really going on, or they become a client and I have actually this thing called like the superhuman cheat sheet, just kind of like a quick wins when people first start my program. To your point, to your question of like, what are the things we can start eliminating to help you feel better? Um, and then I come to find out like they're cooking with like corn oil and like safflower oil. I'm like, wait, I thought you told me you were healthy. I'm not here to set the definition of it, but based on the research, it's pretty clear that like that causes inflammation and you're using that every single day. Right. And so we have to like audit those things that we do on a daily basis. So I would say number one is as simple as it sounds, like the best advice I can give people, and I continue to give it, is just taste the rainbow and eat real food. Make sure your plate is colorful. It's got fruits and vegetables and polyphenols and antioxidants. Because I think the reason that there's these diet wars is because people go keto, they go vegan, they go carnivore. The reason they feel good is because they stop eating processed food.
Yeah.
And then their ego gets attached to, oh, carnivore is the best. No, vegan's the best because they did start feeling good. And so they're justified in that. And they're passionate about sharing it because they started feeling better. But it's mainly because they stopped eating the poison, which is the processed food. And so that ties in like hand in hand. They're like, stop using those seed oils to cook if you are, and know that 90% of processed food is going to have those seed oils in there. And so if you just eat oranges, if you eat apples, if you eat celery, if you eat grass finished beef, if you eat wild caught fish, if you eat nuts and seeds, you get a lot of good fiber. Those are going to be the things that your body needs. That's the raw materials that your body needs. Um, and so getting rid of seed oils, I think, is a huge one for me with my chronic acne and hemorrhoid journey. It was getting rid of gluten and dairy. And I think people have also this to tie into the overwhelming thing. It's like, oh, I can never have fun anymore. I can never have pasta anymore. I can never go out to eat with my friends anymore. I can't have cheese anymore. Like those are all the things I love. Like, why would I want to be healthy? Like, that's not worth it. And number one, I think you have to realize like when you understand something doesn't serve you anymore, whether it's a relationship or a friend or food, when you start to change your mind of I can't have this to I actually don't want this, and I'm empowered to like make this decision that actually serves me, that's not even hard anymore. Like for me, like I obviously like if I decide to have gluten or carbohydrates or um dairy, I'm like making sure it's grass finished or it's organic, it's pasture raised, or it's hopefully like glyphosate free certified. And I know that's not always possible, but my point is like I don't like even like desire gluten or like dairy anymore for the most part. And I think it's because I know how bad of a place it's gotten me to before. That it causes the acne, it causes the constipation, it causes the hemorrhoids. And so I just really teach people to like empower themselves. And if you understood how they make Chick-fil-A sandwiches, if you understood how they make In-N-Out burgers, like I drive by those places and it's not even like it doesn't even process in my brain. It's just like a tree that's on the road. Like it's just another thing that I just, drive by. And so I think that's like the big switch that people need to step into is like you actually have to heal your relationship with food. It's not just like someone tells you to eat these things, which you already know. People are like, oh, what do I eat? You already know. Like the human body knows what it needs. We've just been so hypnotized and so, yeah, entranced into like this has to be confusing. You have to take all these supplements. You have to eat this healthy snack. And it's like, no, you just have to eat real food. And the truth is, unfortunately, right, because of food industrialization, the nutrition level in those foods are not as high as they used to be, right? So they say that you have to eat like 11 bowls of spinach to match one of like, 60 years ago, which sucks. So like there's an aspect of, maybe supplementing some certain micronutrients, but overall, like just getting rid of seed oils, find a way to create a mindset that empowers you to give up gluten and dairy. Um, yeah, stick to the healthy fats like avocado oil, coconut oil, um, tallow, ghee butter, and those things from like a nutritional standpoint will definitely change your life. And then obviously like, healing your relationship with sugar too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think that something that you touched on that I'm the same way. Like I have no desire, like zero. Like I would to have fast food or McDonald's or something like that. Like it doesn't even come through my mind as like a thought that would even sound good. And I do think that there takes like, it takes like a level of detoxing the body and like clearing out like not only like the physical toxins, but the emotional toxins. And I think exactly like once you get to this place, then it's like it's actually very empowering to be able to put things in your body and use things on your body that like make you actually feel good. Um, I'm curious, do you know your astrology, your sun, moon, rising?
No.
Okay, that's okay. Because I feel okay, I'm just curious because I'm a Virgo rising, and I feel like anyone with like some Virgo placements has
Mm.
like, it's like, but it can be like borderline OCD with like, it's like, I want to know, like,
Yeah.
I want to know what's in everything. And I've always
Mm.
like, I mean, I started reading food labels when I was like a teenager, like I had to, right?
Mm.
And so, it goes through the spiral of healing, right? Like I think it's fascinating that you said you had kind of like the hypochondriac era too. Because it's easy to do once you start to see like, oh my gosh, all this
Mm.
stuff is in our food. So, but I like that you also touched on like it is important to be able to go out to eat. And you can ask people like,
Mm.
what are you cooking this in? Could you use butter? Could you just use olive oil to cook
Right.
my meal? And like
Mm.
the chefs are usually fine with that. Like it might take a little bit longer, but it's usually totally fine. So I like that you also shared that it's good to like we also can use our intention. Like we are very powerful. And once, I mean, like, look, like, here's the thing when you do like this deeper work and then you are like fueling your body with clean food, like 99% of the time, it's like your body's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every once in a while, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I love that you shared about that. I'm curious if you feel called to share, because you had mentioned some of like the emotional things and like doing the energy work and stuff like that. Is there anything in there? I'm always so curious because I'm also a hypnotherapist. So like that totally changed my life is working with the mind, working with energy and doing energy work. So I'm curious if there's anything you feel called to share. And it's totally okay because I know it can be like a vulnerable, touchy subject, but like if there's any like beliefs or blocks that came up and your journey that like really moved the needle for you and like transformed things for you.
When I say I help people heal their relationship with food, really it means I'm helping them heal their relationship with themselves and teaching them how to stop people pleasing and stop betraying themselves and literally learn how to put themselves first. Like that is like the number one thing is that people say it in different ways. They say it different tones, different angles, but essentially what they're saying is that I haven't prioritized myself enough. I haven't loved myself enough to put myself first. And that's essentially what I teach people to do. Um, and unfortunately, again, I have to reiterate, like it's not your fault. And I definitely still find myself in these loopholes sometimes where it's like, oh, like why am I thinking this? Like, what's wrong with me? Yada yada. But we've been so hypnotized into fear and we've been projected onto us these limiting beliefs and fears that then create our reality and we take them on as our own. But you came into this world, quote, perfect and happy and soulful and joyful. And literally, as young as the age of like 2 months old, a parent could literally look at a baby in the face and open its eyes wide, and the baby opens its eyes wide, or the parent sticks its tongue out and the baby sticks its tongue out because we are mirroring machines, and these babies are literally modeling our nervous systems. They are looking to us for safety. I've had a coach who kind of gave me the analogy of, when you're a kid and you're looking to your parents to understand if you are safe because at that age, right, 0 to 7, 0 to 12, like you are dependent on your parents. And he was like, yeah, what happens when you're on a plane and the plane starts to shake and there's like a little bit of turbulence? Like you immediately look to the flight attendant to see if like they're calm or they're like sitting down and buckling themselves up and like sitting in the seat because it's like actual turbulence and like something wrong might be happening. Or they're safe in their nervous system, they know everything's okay, and they're just proceeding as usual. It's just a little bit of, rockiness and bumpiness. So I just use that as a foundation because a lot of us will blame ourselves or there's something wrong with us. Um, or like, yeah, I have ADHD or I have procrastination or I have anxiety or I have depression or I am a hypochondriac or I need Adderall. Like, because we've been so separated from nature and also taught to believe that it's our fault, like we just blame ourselves instead of being like, oh, okay, the reason I have an inflamed brain and I have this like ADHD and procrastination and depression and I have this need for Adderall or I have to take this depression medication. The doctor told me I have to be on it for the rest of my life. It's all a result of being separate from nature and being in this box and putting kids into a school to learn things they'll never use ever again in their entire life. Um, to normalize eating candy and how it inflames the brain and inflames the gut. And now they're prescribing 12-year-olds GLP-1s, which is now on track to be one of the most profitable drugs in history. And that's the first line of defense against diabetes is this drug, which is absolutely bonkers and insane. And so that's a long way of saying I, yes, believe that emotionally stored trauma is like an ancestral thing. People that lived 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 years before me, whenever the ego was born, which was basically the day that we decided we're separate from nature. That's how the ego was born, and we started separating ourselves. And, cancer isn't because of a mutation or I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a doctor, but the journey I've gone on, the path I've learned on, the mentors I've learned from, like cancer is basically just a disease of isolation. And that's the society we've created is isolating people. We've isolated our thoughts. We've been taught to believe it's our own fault. So yeah, like I think the most underrated thing when it comes to your health is your thoughts and your beliefs. And there already is science that just gets suppressed, but I hope that more science comes to the mainstream media that your thoughts and your beliefs literally shape your reality. And this is why I'm passionate about, I believe that, and I hope that we can live in a world where every human takes extreme ownership of their nutritional health, their emotional health, and their life's purpose. Because all the madness we see in the political world, all the wars going on, the chronic disease, 1 in 2 people gets cancer in their lifetime, 12-year-olds being prescribed pharmaceutical drugs, 12-year-olds being prescribed Adderall, it's all a result from just fear. And so if we can teach people how to be with their body, how to listen to their body, how to tap into their soul, to their life's purpose, do things like hypnotherapy, do things like Reiki, do things like breath work, do things like inner child healing. All the stuff that is woo woo is actually the stuff that works. And that's what I always say to my clients, the weird stuff works. So personally, for me, I did a Reiki session once I actually decided, which is like a whole nother healing tool in and of itself, is just committing to yourself and deciding. So I hired a mentor. His program didn't start for a month, but he was like, dude, you're so burnt out. Like before you start my program, I need you to like literally regulate your nervous system because you're not going to learn anything. You're going to just be not focused and you won't retain anything. And so that to me is the root. And that's why I've really shifted into the nervous system and emotional healing because I know how much it's helped me. So I hopped on a Reiki table and I realized that there's this like through line in my life of like just like worst case scenario with everything. And so, but then I learned from my coach that like really that is just like the fear of death. And so I was like, all right, well, if I'm so afraid of dying, like why don't I just die? Like, so I got on the Reiki table and I basically told myself to die. Um, because I needed to feel what that felt like because I was so afraid of it. And it was like the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my life. So it was basically like an ego death, right? And from there, my whole life totally shifted. And I ran 8 half marathons in 8 months, and now I've run whatever 11 in like 2 years. I did a 162-mile bike ride over the course of 2 days. I overcame my Epstein-Barr virus, my chronic illness, my testosterone doubled, my energy quadrupled. So is that amongst also love to hear that you're a hypnotherapist. Like you have to shift the subconscious mind. You can tell yourself and try to willpower yourself into eating healthier food or, not saying a certain thing or being in this relationship, but until you actually change your reality, which is really only done through your beliefs and your identity and your subconscious mind, I think you're just 95% of your thoughts are just going to be on repeat day after day after day. So, also a long way of sharing my answer, but yeah, somatic, right, of the body healing tools. Personally, I've changed my life and I've seen it change many others. So that to me, like now that I've experienced that, I can't just tell people what to eat, because your sleep affects it, your stress affects it, your relationships and your life affect it, your environment. And so for me, like when you understand the root and you see the root, you can't unsee it. And when you're a root cause healer, you have to teach what the root cause is. And so now I've really shifted my coaching into really leaning into that burnout coaching and teaching people how to overcome it, which burnout is a blanket term for perfectionism and not enough and people pleasing, not building boundaries, and how much, no matter how healthy you eat, no matter how many smoothies you eat, no matter how many ice baths you do, no matter how many hours of sleep you get, you can still feel like crap, have afternoon crashes. Your gut can still be a mess because you haven't taken care of your energy hygiene.
Oh, so good. And I could just like feel the depth of that ego death. Like that's so, so big. It feels like that feels like the root, like the juice that I often see in sessions with people that it's like until you get to that, yeah, it's like you're gonna keep playing with the physical things and the physical things are important, but like that is so good. And I loved what you brought up as well about like the people pleasing because it's all connected. It is all part of it. And once you see that everything is a mirror and
Mm-hmm.
everything is reflecting aspects of you to you, like that's so powerful. I love that you had like the courage and the bravery. I think especially like around, I know that it can often be harder for men to like really go into like that deep emotional place of like it's really vulnerable, right? It's really vulnerable to be like, okay, like I'm gonna let myself have this massive ego death
Mm-hmm.
and but like what a beautiful testament. And I'm so glad that you're sharing about like the liberation and the expansion and like the beauty. And I find too, I mean, you can share your experience, but like once you release those, like it reconnects you to you and to your intuition and to your body. So it's like, then you know like what your body needs and what your
Mm-hmm.
body wants. And like you're more in tune with nature and more in tune with the earth. And so It really is like this whole holistic experience. Did you find that that was true for you, that it really reconnected you to like your intuition and your, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Um, when I was really struggling, like transitioning from my corporate job to full-time entrepreneurship, I realized I was depressed because I needed deep rest.
yeah,
And so I say I was like cranking my corporate job for 6 years, but really it was 29 years of my whole life where I was in stress and fear and adrenaline and cortisol mode chronically. And so no wonder the first moment in my life that I had time to not be at an 8 a.m. meeting every single day or have back to back to back to back to back meetings. And it was like four into my nervous system. It felt really weird to adjust that. Yeah, all of that pent up emotion just like kind of came flooding in. And the analogy I use is like I was basically running away from a lion for
yeah,
my whole life, 29 years. And then my body was like, oh, the lion's not there anymore. So you can slow down now. But obviously, when your adrenals and your cortisol is cranking for so long, like nothing at a chronic level is really good for you. So there was a big, whiplash from that, really. And so then I sat there blaming myself for procrastination, anxiety, depression, all these things that I was like, dude, you were the guy that woke up at 5:30 a.m. every morning and you did an ice bath and you read your book and you did breath work and you were fasting and then just totally like I lost myself and snoozing, hitting the snooze button 8 times till like 8:30 in the morning. Like, why is God punishing me? I just quit my corporate job so that I can have more time to work on my business. And now here I am. I've never been, you know, less productive. And so, yeah, that just forced me to really listen to my body. And the truth is, like, again, there's nothing wrong with you. And all these labels that we give to ourselves, like, they can be helpful, they can be validating. Like, when I found out I had Epstein-Barr virus, like, it was, it helped. It felt good because I was like, I'm not going crazy, but like, I'm feeling all these things, like, something must be going on. But I didn't realize for a long time I wasn't taking extreme ownership for the feedback that my body was giving me was just a result of how I was living my life, which obviously wasn't serving me. And so something had to change. And yeah, I didn't realize how much I was like numbing out my emotions. I felt like I was doing a lot of things right, but that was one thing I didn't know that was a skill. That it was like actually a skill to rest. It was a skill to sit there. I mean, sometimes it's literally harder to do nothing than it is to do something, whether it's scrolling on your phone or reading a book or even healing, doing breath work. I mean, I challenge anybody listening to this podcast right now, go outside for 5 minutes, close your eyes, put your feet in the grass, let the sun hit your skin. It's probably going to feel really good. And it might feel like 5 hours. The 5 minutes might feel like 5 hours if you've never really practiced sitting still. And the truth is, that's where all the answers come from. So, long story short, yeah, the only way to really listen to your body, listen to your intuition is to slow down. And when I was really burnt out, I didn't know if I needed a naturopath or I needed a business coach. Which one was going to heal me first? Oh, maybe I hired a business coach because once that's in line and that's a build a foundation, then I won't have financial stress. I won't have all these, you know, the system stress. But if I, do the naturopath, then I'll heal my gut and then I'll feel better and then I'll be fine and I'll have more energy. And so I like didn't know who to trust. I didn't know what to trust. I didn't know listening to a million things on Instagram. I was listening to everybody except my own body because unfortunately I kind of lost touch with my body, literally lost my intuition. I didn't know it was a thing. And this is like, people ask me, like, what do you do? I teach people how to listen to their body.
yeah. I can tell you're very intuitive, so that's like very much a gift to share with others. And I mean, I think it's like it feels like a rite of passage, I think personally, and I've definitely gone down that route of like you just want to know, like you want the validation of like what's going on. And so it's like, I think that these tests can have a time and a place and like, learning that you have Lyme and Epstein-Barr or all of these things. But what I've come to see in my journey is that's it's not the root cause. Like it's actually not the root cause. Like there has to be an emotion, a trauma, some type of energy in place that attracts that to come in. And there's a soul lesson there, right? Like your soul wants you to be on mission, on purpose, like doing what you came here to do, to get rid of the people pleasing patterns, to let go of that relationship, like whatever it is, right? And so it's like these things are just catalysts, like, and it takes like a certain level of consciousness and a certain level of awareness and a certain connection to yourself and the creator to like have that like trust. But I think once you can get to that trust and get to that knowing, like it really opens up this really beautiful place and space where it's now you working with God, with the divine to be led back to you ultimately at the end of the day. Because all of these are tools, right? Like eating healthy, it's a tool so that you can have deeper fulfillment and feel better, so that you can connect with your soul, so that you can connect with God, so that you can live your soul's purpose and mission and all of that. So I love everything that you shared. I feel like we could keep going for so long. Um, where can people find you? What can people do to deeper connect with you? Don't you, I feel like you, I didn't even ask you to, you have like a clothing brand, don't you, as well? Do you want to share about that real quick too?
Yeah, the shirt I'm wearing right now, this one's got my Superfood Superhuman logo on it.
Amazing.
Long story short, I've been trying to switch to all organic clothing for like 2 years, but I feel like my biggest issues were I'm very particular about how my clothes fit. So when you buy stuff online, you don't really know how it's going to fit. Number two, like, right, there's not a lot of brick and mortar stores. I mean, there really aren't like any that have like organic clothing. I used to be a big Marshalls guy. uh, so like those are my two biggest issues. And it's like, you want the clothes to fit. And so I was like, why are like no companies that like sell organic clothing online like show you videos of like how it fits or like the exact measurements? And so I created like a lot of videos to help people with that. Um, but yeah, like our skin is our largest organ in our body. And so if you wouldn't put it in your body, why would you put it on your body? And so most people don't realize that most clothing is made from literally plastic, polyester, nylon, I think rayon, and a couple other ones. Like those are basically just other words, different words for plastic.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's
And
like,
bamboo.
obvious, yeah. And so food is a huge thing, water, all these things. Deeper you go into your healing journey, you start to realize, and it's like, it's not the end of the world if you're not wearing organic clothing. But to me, I'm just trying to live as close to nature as much as possible because it feels good in my body. It feels like I'm healing the earth. And even if you are not using plastic, 96% of cotton in this country is genetically modified, which means it's, as we learned earlier in this podcast, if you listen to the whole thing, it's probably being sprayed with glyphosate. So yeah, I had a friend that had a shirt. It said "Stay Locked In" on it, and it was like a really cool, like boxy, kind of like California heavier cotton type of fit, and I really liked it, and I got a lot of compliments on it. And then, long story short, I had to do this thing for my trademark, and then this side project turned into this like whole apparel line now. So now I sell 100% organic cotton t-shirts, 100% organic cotton hoodies, and then I have like a women's section as well. But most of them have like little like 3-word sayings on them. So one's like trust your gut, another one is eat real food. That's been the best seller. Food is medicine, nature's medicine, breath is medicine, all the things that I just genuinely believe in. And like the whole point is to help people start conversation. Like I'll walk into like an organic coffee shop and I wear my eat real food and like not surprised when people are like, "Oh, I love your shirt," which is also just like a reminder you're in the right place. And so like to me, I love it because it's like a good style. It's organic clothing. It starts like, conscious conversations. So thank you for asking that. It's been a fun project. It's been a really fun like connection tool, and I definitely want to try to get it into like Pilates studios, the Grease studios,
Yeah.
breathwork studios, because I feel like they would do really well there. And it's just one piece of my business that hopefully leads people into really understanding more about my mission. Um, so yeah, thanks for asking about that. And then yeah, if people want to find me on the interwebs, superfoodsuperhuman.com pretty much has everything from all the podcasts I've done, which I've done like 22 guest podcast appearances now, which I'm really grateful for. My merch, I got mini courses on there, my more hands-on group community coaching. And then I would say my main social media platform is Instagram. So it's just at superfood superhuman, all singular, all one word. I got a Substack as well, just because I have so much to share, and sometimes I like to do the longer form content. But I'm also like on TikTok and Facebook and LinkedIn. But yeah, Instagram is probably my main one.
Perfect. Well, we will link all of that in the show notes and also go check out, definitely get some organic clothes. I know that I recently switched over. I mean, it's a process getting your whole closet, but
Sure.
I
Yeah.
can totally attest to like you just feel better wearing organic cotton clothing.
Yeah.
It's such a game changer. So we'll also put I have some resources for people and go check
Cool.
out his clothes and we'll put all of the links, go connect with him. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. And one last thing I'll say about the clothing. Yeah, it like certain clothing and material literally has a higher vibrational
Yeah.
frequency as like hipster woo as that might sound. Like linen and wool and cotton, like things that come from like Mother Nature and the earth, literally have a higher frequency, whereas things like polyester and like, plastic have a frequency of zero, which is the frequency of cancer
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
disease.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wear like, organic cotton shorts that have wool inner lining, and so hemp, wool, linen, cotton, you don't have to buy my stuff, but just if people are curious, definitely recommend that.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad that you said that because it's nothing's woo around here. Nothing is
Yeah.
woo. Um, I think it's what is it? Cotton is like 100, and I think
Yep.
linen is like 1,000
Yeah,
frequency.
linen. I need to get some linen stuff. They used to actually, most hospitals used to use linen sheets. And now obviously I think they just use polyester, but used to like help
That
people heal, literally.
totally before the Rockefellers came
Exactly.
and took over. It
Yeah.
was you would
Yeah.
go to hospitals and it was literally linen sheets. You would be out in the sunshine. They would use homeopathy. They
Mm,
did colonics, like, and
that's
people would
badass.
leave healed.
Yeah. Yeah. They
And
probably realized too many people were getting better.
exactly. Well, that there's like this whole
Rockefeller,
rabbit hole.
man.
That's when they went
Yeah.
over and they started finding out about oil, and
Yeah.
the oil industry was, then that created like the pharmaceuticals, and they were like,
Yeah.
this is gonna what will make you profitable, and
The
you're
good old
making
flexing
so
a
much
report.
money.
Yeah.
I know that's a whole rabbit hole, but the
Yeah. Round
things that
two.
kill
We'll do
you,
an episode two.
totally, totally, because there's a lot to dive into there. Well, thank you so much, Mike. And as
Thank you.
always, thank you all for listening. And I'm just sending you all infinite love and light.